Hi, my name is John Street. I'm the managing editor at Campus Reform. I have Dan Mogulof with me. He is the Assistant Vice Chancellor of Communications at the University of California-Berkeley. Dan, thanks for joining us. I appreciate your time today.
Pleasure, John.
So I just wanted to start by giving our viewers just a rundown of the incident that we're referring to today, the incident involving Hayden Williams. He is the field representative for the Leadership Institute. He is the Leadership Institute, of course, is the parent organization of Campus Reform. I should disclose that. He was on the University of California-Berkeley campus, and on February 19th, he was helping some students recruit new members for their conservative groups. There was an altercation that ensued, and that escalated to Hayden getting punched in the face. The man identified as having punched Hayden in the face was subsequently arrested and charged with battery and assault, among other charges. So now that we have our viewers up to speed on what exactly we're talking about today, I just want to ask you, is the university pleased with the outcome of the police investigation?
Yeah, I think what's really important for people to understand is immediately after the incident, the chancellor of our university, Carol Christ, put out a very clear message, a message that's consistent with past messages this university has put out, making it absolutely clear that we will not tolerate violence, we will not tolerate unlawful conduct on this campus, that we believe consequences must be imposed when rules and laws are violated, no matter who the perpetrators are or what they believe in. So in that context, our police investigation identified, arrested a suspect. That suspect has been charged. We believe in the rule of law. We believe in the American judicial system. And we believe that there must be consequences when laws, particularly laws that are designed to protect free speech, are violated.
Do you believe that the consequences, the charges that have been brought forth thus far, are the appropriate consequences for this individual to face?
In order for me to answer that, I would have to have a much better understanding of the exact findings of the investigation. From a layman's perspective, it seems to make sense. I have a great deal of faith of the men and women who put on the uniform of the University of California Police Department every day. I have great faith in the efficacy of their investigations, and I have faith in District Attorney in the County of Alameda. And so if together they determined that these are the charges that were warranted by what unfolded on campus a few weeks ago, I have no reason to doubt that. Do you?
I will let the results speak for themselves when we get them. However, I just want to move on to following the incident, a University of California-Berkeley employee, UV Panda, I believe I am pronouncing that name correctly, had come to Greenberg, the suspect's defense, in a tweet saying, quote, "Oh my God, the MAGA people on UC Berkeley campus yesterday got punched in the face by someone. This makes me feel emotionally so much better." Is the administration concerned by that language that's being used by a university employee? And what message, do you think that sends the correct message to students?
This university is concerned about any language that endorses violence, supports violence, expresses approval for violence. This university stands against language that is filled with hate, language that is intended to divide, language that stands in the way of the sort of debate and discourse that one of the world's greatest universities depends on in order to meet its academic objectives with our students. By the same token, we will resist and contest any effort to have a single individual represent the thoughts, the values, the commitments, the understandings of a campus community that numbers in excess of 50,000 people. This university has made clear what its values are, and there is only one person who speaks for this university as a whole, and that's our chancellor. And at times, I speak on her behalf and the university's behalf. Anybody else is speaking entirely for themselves, and I think I've made it quite clear how we feel about any endorsement of violence, no matter where that endorsement comes from or no matter what the beliefs are of the person who issues those endorsements.
Have the strong feelings that the university has and the strong stance that you take against any sort of violence or any support for violence, has that informed your actions as to any actions that you may or may not have taken against this particular employee of the university? Have there been actions taken, any conversations had with that individual?
John, as much as I might like to answer that question, the laws of California strictly preclude me from providing confidential information about an employee. All employee information is protected by the rule of law in California. I know you and your audience are very concerned that this institution abide by the laws of the land, and so I must do so in this instance.
Is this particular individual still employed by the University of California-Berkeley?
Yes, that I'm allowed to confirm as per the law of California.
Okay, in this incident specifically, a conservative activist, Hayden Williams, was confronted while standing next to a table with "Make America Great Again" signs, among other types of signs. Given that this incident stemmed from a sign referencing the President of the United States, would President Donald Trump be welcome to come and speak on the university campus right now? And how do you think that presence of the president would be received by the campus community?
Look, I think that our track record speaks for itself. In other words, we have welcomed to this campus over the years dozens and dozens of conservative speakers. In the last year alone, we have welcomed at least 9 very well-known conservative speakers and representatives, including Charlie Kirk. We have established through our deeds something that cannot be contested. This campus believes in diversity of ideas. It believes in diversity of perspectives. It believes that our students must be exposed to beliefs, ideas, and ideologies that run the full range.
Does the university believe it would be an honor to host the President of the United States on campus?
This university has successfully hosted presidents of the United States throughout its 150 year.
President Trump specifically.
Let me finish. Throughout our history of more than 150 years, and we have no intention of changing that. We here in the state of California, whether you know it or not, we remain a part of the United States. The President of the United States was democratically elected. We believe in democracy. We believe in the outcome of the election, and we believe respect is due to the occupant of the Oval Office.
I'm hearing you say that President Trump would in fact be welcome, as would any other president of the United States. Is that correct, what I'm hearing?
I have made clear that this university has a long-standing history of welcoming speakers and individuals from across the political spectrum, and there is nothing about that that's going to change.
Do you believe that the university community, the campus community, would receive the current president of the United States well? Do you worry about any sort of violent protests breaking out were that to happen, as were the case with Milo Yiannopoulos just a couple of years ago?
I refuse, John, to paint with a broad brush for a community that numbers more than 60,000 people. I think we have seen across the country that there is a great deal of anger right now. Anger on all sides of the political spectrum, whether you're looking at Berkeley or Charlottesville or political rallies where members of the press have been attacked. And I think anybody who would reject the possibility of disruption for any political figure from the right, the left, Democrat, Republican, anybody who would ignore or deny the possibility for trouble in what is one of the most fraught and difficult periods in this country's history in terms of polarization, I think they'd be kidding themselves. But what I can commit to, as we have in the past, and again, this is an instance where our deeds and words are completely consistent, we will, as we have in the past, always do what is necessary to support the First Amendment and provide for the safety, security, and well-being of our students and our guests. We have an excellent police force. We work in an extremely collaborative and cooperative fashion with other law enforcement agencies, both local, state, and national. Nothing about that is going to change.
In the aftermath of this particular incident, President Donald Trump vowed to sign an executive order that would require colleges and universities to support free speech if they wish to continue to receive federal research dollars. Now, we don't know the exact wording of that executive order quite yet. However, is UC Berkeley prepared to deal with the potential loss of federal research funding under such an executive order, and exactly how much funding would the university does the university receive that could potentially be at stake?
You know, really, we don't have a concern about this. Again, this is an instance where words and deeds are completely consistent. This university has spent more than $4 million. In other words, we have put our money where our mouth is and where our values are. We have spent more than $4 million in the last year in order to provide security for events featuring conservative speakers. That is an uncontestable record. We have nothing to hide, and we have supported free speech and diversity of perspective on this campus in a way that perhaps no other university has in recent times. We are happy to have that record examined, scrutinized, and anybody who takes the time to do so will understand that this campus has nothing to be worried about when it comes to any possible sanctions or moves by the federal government that might impose any sort of sanctions on a campus that did not support free speech. We are confident in what we've done. We are confident in our commitment to continue doing what needs to be done to support the First Amendment rights of our students and our guests.
I want to go back to the $4 million number that you referenced just now, because that's another number that you had referenced in earlier statements to campus reform. Can you say exactly what that $4 million went to, what that was spent on specifically?
It was spent on a large number of events, and some of them there was event featuring Ben Shapiro. I talked about the 9 other conservative speakers who've been on campus just in the last 12 months. There was also a large amount of money spent in preparation for what Mr. Yiannopoulos called Free Speech Week, an event that eventually collapsed under its own weight. But basically, those are funds that this university expended in order to support the First Amendment, in order to support the First Amendment rights of our students, in order to support the First Amendment rights of our guests, and to ensure that safety and security was provided to one and all without regard to their beliefs or perspectives.
Were those the $4 million that you're referencing, did that go to security fees for the speakers themselves to make sure that there was a safe environment for them to speak in? Was that what the money was spent on?
Exactly right.
It was only security fees. Was there anything else involved in that $4 million number?
Like what? I'm not sure what you're referring to.
That's what I'm asking. I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, those are all of those monies. There were additional monies expended by the university, whether for venue rentals or, I'm only counting money that was spent in order to provide security for these events and to ensure that this university could continue to host speakers from the broadest possible range of perspectives and beliefs.
Do you think it says anything about the campus when it takes $4 million to make sure that a campus is safe when you have a conservative speaker on campus?
I think it says more about the fact that over the last 2 years, we have learned that extreme individuals and organizations across the political spectrum have no reservations about turning a college campus into an actual, literal battleground. We have seen what has happened in Charlottesville. We have seen what has happened across the country. And we made a commitment that we will not allow extreme individuals and organizations who would use violence to support their own positions or who would use violence to silence those they disagree with, that we would not give them the power to interfere with the First Amendment rights of our students and our guests. This university is a part of this country. This is not the only place where we have seen conflict, where we have seen violence, and where we have seen extraordinary levels of anger from all sides of the political spectrum, directed at individuals that people disagree with. It's unfortunate. We don't like it. We have better ways to use that money. But if that's what we have to do to support the First Amendment, that's what we're going to do.
Is the $4 million number that you referenced, is there an equivalent to that when it comes to speakers of any other political ideology or background, or is that a number that is much higher when it comes to conservative speakers specifically?
Well, I don't have those numbers. I wish you had told me beforehand. I could have researched it. I will say, and it's somewhat interesting, that our conservative student groups here on campus, and there are a large number of them, I think a number that's actually equal to the number of what you would call liberal or left-leaning student groups, they've been far more active. They've had far more events with far more people, and God bless them for that. The campus has worked closely and collaboratively with the Berkeley College Republicans and the relatively newly formed Berkeley Conservative Society, and they've had a large number of events. I would have to go back into our archives, but I'm really not aware of groups, perhaps on the other side of the political spectrum, who have been quite as active in terms of public events. But again, we would provide them with the exact same services, support, protections, and when assessed by our police, security. Let me be clear about something else. The measures that the university takes in terms of provision of security for these events is not based on what we think. It is based on the objective, neutral analysis of our law enforcement professionals working in close concert with state, local, and federal agencies that they get intelligence from. As we well know, for example, with Milo Yiannopoulos, before he came to the Berkeley campus, he was at an event in the Pacific Northwest where somebody was shot, right? So that's the kind of intelligence, those are the kind of actions that are going to inform the measures we take here on this campus.
On March 4th, you told Campus Reform that the University of California-Berkeley would take, quote, very specific actions, unquote, to support free speech on campus, and the school would, quote, continue to support and assist conservative student groups who wish to host speakers of their choice. What specific actions were you referencing when you said that you would take specific actions, continue to support groups?
Sorry, it's the exact same actions I've been talking about.
Okay.
So right now we are working closely, and we'll be working even more closely with the Berkeley College Republicans. They just let us know about a very well-known conservative speaker who they have invited to come to campus in mid-April. And again, in a community of 60,000 people, takes a lot of, to have a successful event, takes a lot of work, takes a lot of collaboration. These are the things that we're going to continue with. Our police department is going to continue to do the sort of assessments necessary so these events can proceed without disruption and proceed safely and successfully. And so all of the things that we've been doing in the past, we intend to continue doing in the future. No changes. Our commitment to the First Amendment and to diversity of perspective is unwavering and will not change.
So upon some research ahead of this interview, Campus Reform did look into some past UC Berkeley commencement speakers over the past 10 years. We did find that there were 3 elected or appointed Democrats who were commencement speakers at Berkeley in the past 10 years. We did not, however, find any who were elected or appointed Republicans. Is this the case, this research that we've conducted, correct?
I have no idea. Again, John, I wish you had provided me with that information so I could check it beforehand. As you know, this goes a bit beyond the subjects you said you wanted to discuss, but I am happy to address them all the same. First of all, you should know that commencement speakers are not chosen by the administration. And what we are talking about here today is the stance, are the values, are the commitments, are the actions, and are the words of the campus administration. Commencement speakers are invited by the students. If that's what your research shows, I hear right now unable to check it. I have no reason to doubt it. But again, we are both here as believers in democracy. And if the student body chooses these speakers, that's a choice we have to respect. At the same time, we have had in the past, and I don't know, about 4 or 5 years ago, where the students selected a commencement speaker. That commencement speaker happened to be a rather provocative entertainer who, subsequent to his selection as a commencement speaker, issued some comments, I think it was about Muslims, that the students believed were highly offensive. The students sought to disinvite the speaker. The administration said, not going to happen. This person has a right to express themselves. They were invited. You knew when you invited this person that he was a provocateur. He's been provocative. This event is going to continue. We caught holy hell for many quarters because of that. And although this speaker's words were, I think many of us found to be quite offensive, it doesn't matter to us. We're going to stand up to the rights, to the First Amendment rights of people, no matter what it is that they believe.
And I just want to say for the record, going back to your statement on not knowing that that sort of question was going to be asked, I did give you guidelines as to, kind of the format and just kind of the
yeah, but not about it. But you, John, and I'll be happy to read it to you here. Again, it's fine. I'm totally fine that we go beyond. I'm just saying there was nothing in our communications and your communications to me suggesting we're going to talk about commencement speakers. We've had approximately 300 commencement speakers in the history of this university, and I'm sorry, but I don't have a list memorized of exactly who they were. And so you're requiring me to take your word for it, but you've been a straight up shooter throughout the time that we've been working together and that I've been assisting you with your reporting. If that's what your research found, fine. What I'm saying is that I do not believe a selective list, a cherry-picked list of names from over 150 years of commencement speakers can be used to somehow signify or be used as an example of what the administration of this campus believes in and stands for.
I completely understand that you don't have that information at your disposal right now. I just want to make clear to our viewers that I did not take any question off the table beforehand. But
absolutely, and no disagreement about that. I'm just saying, in terms of having background information prepared, many people think I know everything about everything involving this university of 50,000 people that's been around for 150 years, and I hate to disappoint, but I don't.
All right, moving ahead. So Campus Reform has reported throughout the years on multiple instances of conservatives who were, on the campus, who had their rights violated, who were harassed, who were assaulted. We've searched for similar incidents that were targeted toward liberal or progressive students the same amount of time since 2016, the same amount of time that we did as for the conservative students. We weren't able to find any. Can you name any incidents of similar nature to conservative students?
Yeah, we've had students associated with liberal and left-leaning organizations doxxed. We have had horrific graffiti left around campus walls and sidewalks, targeting undocumented students, transgender students, lesbian students, homosexual students. We've had similar language that has and deeds that have targeted religious minorities. In each and every one of those cases, including cases that have targeted conservative students, the university has responded immediately, both with condemning statements and, where appropriate and necessary, by putting our police into action in terms of investigations. So I completely reject any notion that we have dealt differentially with student groups or individuals who have been targeted based on their beliefs, on their identities, or their origins.
Have there been students of other political ideologies who have been assaulted on campus that you can recall?
I would have to again go back. The university has been here for 150 years. I seem to recall at least 2 incidents, but I'm not going to make anything up. I have always provided you with vetted information, and that's something I'm going to need to contact our police department about. Now, having said that, no one will deny that conservative students on this campus have been targeted. By the same token, nobody can deny that other students have been targeted based on their beliefs, their identities, their origins. It doesn't matter to us. All of that behavior is intolerable. We will, in the future, as we have in the past, do whatever is necessary and whatever we can to identify the perpetrators, to bring them to justice, and to impose the appropriate consequences. Again, this university is not an ivory tower. We are not isolated from the rest of the country. And you don't need me to tell you that we are living in incredibly divided and divisive times, where the level of emotion and anger and even hatred that is evident across the political spectrum should be a deep concern for anyone who cares about our democracy. And it is of particular concern for those of us who work at an institution of higher education, because institutions like ours, we depend on the ability to have civil debate and discourse about these very issues. And those who would engage in violence or hateful speech stand in direct opposition to our values and our mission.
Dan, I just want to thank you so much for the time that you've taken out of your day to answer these questions for us. We really appreciate it. We try to be straight shooters and report the facts as they are. We hope we are doing them justice. Thank you so much.
And thank you, John. I have to say that your reporting and your work since the incident has been exemplary. I think you've bent over backwards to provide a balanced and accurate view of the university's actions, words and deeds. And I will say to you, and I will say to all those who are watching this video, I will ask you to continue to watch what we do and not just what we say, to not immediately buy into narratives that confirm pre-existing beliefs, to make the effort to gain information from independent sources, not just ideological sources, and to also think about, as we ask all of our students to do, what kind of country we want to live in. This university believes that our goals and our values as Americans are best supported if institutions of higher education in particular can continue to support, sustain, and foster civil debate and discourse, even about the most divisive issues that we currently face as a country. That can't happen if there's violence. And so we're going to continue to speak out against it, and we're going to continue to do what we need to bring those who engage in violence to justice, and to see that appropriate consequences are always imposed.
Dan, thank you once again.
Thank you, John.
This is John Street. I'm the managing editor at Campus Reform, joined by Dan Mogulof, who is the Assistant Vice Chancellor of Communications at the University of California, Berkeley. Thank you.